When Princess Catherine stepped into Buckingham Palace with the lover's knot tiara once worn by Princess Diana adorning her head, the room fell silent. Amid the admiring gazes of the crowd, one figure stood quietly in the background. Queen Camilla. This tiara is more than a piece of jewelry. It's a memory, a legacy, the heart of a kingdom. And as Camilla, who has fought her entire life for acceptance, saw it on Catherine's head, she realized there are battles she has never truly won. From a secret letter penned by Queen Elizabeth to unspoken glances at Windsor, two women, one rising, one holding her ground face, each other not with words but through memories, silence and the crown of a woman long gone. But who is truly chosen, and is it possible to share a legacy without wounding each other? Buckingham Palace glowed under the light of massive crystal chandeliers, hanging like twinkling stars in the night sky. The grand reception hall echoed with the soft strains of a waltz gliding over golden walls and rich red carpets. Diplomatic guests dressed in gold-embroidered formal attire stood in small clusters, whispering among themselves. The clink of wine glasses formed a second symphony, blending with the orchestra's melody. Tonight was a momentous occasion, a reception for diplomats from across the globe, where the British royal family showcased its splendor and authority. But when the north door swung open, all sounds seemed to vanish into an eerie stillness. Every eye, from seasoned diplomats to elegant lords and ladies, turned to a single point. The waltz continued, but it faded into a mere backdrop, overshadowed by her entrance. Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped forward. Her glossy brown hair was swept back, revealing the dazzling lover's knot tiara, a masterpiece of diamonds and pearls once worn by Princess Diana. The chandelier light caught the pearls, making them sway gently with her steps, like shimmering tears falling in silence. Her ivory gown hugged her graceful frame, each silken fold, telling a story of elegance and pride. She moved with perfect poise, neither hurried nor slow, as if time and space were yielding to her presence. In that moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. A few guests whispered, unable to hide their awe. "She's like a living painting," a European countess murmured to her companion, her eyes fixed on Catherine. But one gaze, sharp and discreet, watched from a distance. Queen Camilla entered shortly after, her regal bearing unmistakable as she stepped through the door. Her sapphire satin gown accentuated her fair skin and neatly upswept hair. On her head rested the George VI sapphire tiara, its gemstones gleaming like a midnight sky. Camilla smiled, a smile honed over decades under public scrutiny. But when her eyes met Catherine's, that smile faltered for half a second, just long enough for the keen observer to notice a crack in her perfect facade. Catherine dipped her head slightly, a proper gesture, from a princess to a queen. Camilla responded with a nod, but no words passed between them. The air between the two women grew heavy, as if an untold story was unfolding in silence. The lover's knot tiara on Catherine's head with its shimmering pearls seemed to whisper of a past that refused to fade, of Diana, her pain, and a love story that once captivated the world. In a corner of the room, a veteran reporter from the Times scribbled furiously in a small notebook. He wrote, "Tonight Buckingham is more than a palace. It is a stage where crows tell stories that words cannot touch." He looked up, watching Catherine and Camilla standing just a few steps apart, and added, "And between these two women, there is the shadow of a third." Catherine moved toward the guests, shaking hands, smiling, and speaking in a gentle yet confident tone. She knew all eyes were on her, not just for her beauty or title, but for the tiara on her head, a symbol far beyond the value of its diamonds and pearls. It was a declaration, a wordless inheritance of a legacy the world had not forgotten. Camilla, meanwhile, played her role as the event's centerpiece, moving among the guests with ease. She laughed, shared stories of royal charitable work, and mentioned Queen Elizabeth II with carefully measured reverence. But deep within, a quiet unease stirred. The George VI sapphire tiara on her head was a powerful piece cherished by Queen Elizabeth. Yet tonight it seemed overshadowed by the lover's knot's radiance. And Camilla, though reluctant to admit it, felt it keenly. For a fleeting moment, as their eyes met across the crowded room, time seemed to pause. No words were spoken, no gestures exchanged. But in that glance, a silent dialogue unfolded, a play without a script where the tiara was the dialogue and the past was the director. Catherine turned away, resuming her conversation with an ambassador. Camilla raised her wine glass, her lips curving into a fresh smile. But in her heart, a quiet question echoed. Am I truly the queen when the world only sees her shadow? The night at Buckingham continued bathed in crystal light and waltz melodies. But within the hearts of these two women, a silent storm was brewing, a storm of memories, power and legacies that could not be erased. In a private room at Kensington Palace, the soft glow of a silver desk lamp illuminated the lover's knot tiara, resting elegantly on a red velvet cushion. Catherine sat at her vanity, her slender fingers brushing the shimmering pearls. Each pearl, each diamond seemed to whisper a story not just of the tiara, but of the woman who made it an eternal symbol, Princess Diana. The lover's knot was more than jewelry. It was a living legacy crafted for Queen Mary in 1914 with intricate designs and timeless grandeur. Each diamond was perfectly cut, each pearl meticulously chosen, as if to remind its wearer that beauty comes with weight. The tiara had passed through Queen Elizabeth II's hands, but it was Diana wearing it at glittering yet sorrowful galas who transformed it into an icon, a symbol of a broken heart, a betrayed love, and a woman who conquered the world with resilience amid pain. Catherine closed her eyes, picturing Diana through documentaries, photographs, and stories she'd been told. In her mind, an image emerged, Diana standing before a mirror, her blonde hair glowing under dim light, the lover's knot heavy on her head. Her eyes sparkled not with joy, but with suppressed tears. There were 3 people in this marriage, Diana had once said, her voice trembling, yet resolute. Catherine felt a shiver. This tiara was more than jewelry. It was a testament to those words, to a love story that became legend. She opened her eyes, gazing at her reflection in the mirror. The tiara remained on its cushion, silently radiant. But when she wore it at Buckingham, Catherine had felt its weight, not just the physical burden of diamonds and pearls, but the weight of history, expectations, and a name that still lingered in the public's heart, Diana. Meanwhile, at Clarence House, Queen Camilla sat in her private sitting room, a glass of cognac on a mahogany table. The firelight danced, casting shadows across her face, a face accustomed to judgmental stares and whispered gossip. The George Siskezan sapphire tiara, a powerful emblem of royalty, sat nearby, but it couldn't dispel the shadow of the lover's knot and the woman who once wore it. Camilla had never touched the lover's knot, not because she didn't want to, but because she knew she couldn't. That tiara, with its beauty and pain, belonged to a story in which she was only a supporting character, the third person in Diana's bitter words. Camilla had entered royal life like a wisp of smoke, subtle yet impossible to erase. She had fought her entire life for acceptance, to step out from Diana's shadow. But that night at Buckingham, as Catherine entered with the lover's knot on her head, Camilla felt the past not just return, it was more alive than ever. She sipped her cognac, its bitterness sliding down her throat. A quiet unease stirred, not jealousy, but a deep-seated insecurity. Camilla understood the power of symbols. She had seen how Diana, even after her death, held the public's heart. And now Catherine, with her gentle yet resolute presence, was inheriting that glow. Camilla was no fool. She knew that to the public, the lover's knot was more than jewelry. It was Diana, her memory, her emotion unmatched by any other crown. As the night deepened in 2 separate palaces, 2 women faced the same question. How do you survive in the shadow of a legend? And in the dim glow of their tiaras, the answer remained a mystery. In the days following Queen Elizabeth II's death in September 2022, Buckingham Palace was steeped in both solemnity and tension. Outside, the nation mourned, with flowers blanketing the palace gates and crowds lining up to bid farewell to Britain's longest reigning queen. But within the cold marble walls, a quiet division was unfolding, not of power, but of legacies, symbols, and crowns. The Royal Collection Room, a secret vault deep beneath Buckingham, was opened for the first time in decades. Fluorescent lights illuminated rows of tiaras, brooches, and necklaces, each resting on velvet cushions and bulletproof glass cases. Every gem, every piece of gold held a story of dynasties, queens, and secrets never revealed. The curators, dressed in somber black uniforms, moved with care, as if handling fragile bombs. At the room's center, the lover's knot stood silently, its pearls whispering of its former wearer. Camilla, now queen, was the first invited into the vault. She entered with calm composure, though her clasped hands betrayed a hint of tension. Her pale gray silk dress lacked any sparkle, as if she wanted all attention on the treasures awaiting her. A senior royal official, Edward Langley, stood beside her, his voice low and respectful. "Your Majesty, you have the right of first choice? It is tradition." Camilla nodded, her eyes scanning the glass cases. She paused at the George VI sapphire tiara, its deep blue gems like an ocean. It was a favorite of Queen Elizabeth, and Camilla knew wearing it would send a powerful message she was the heir to the great Queen's spirit. "This one," she said, her voice soft but firm. Langley bowed, noting her choice, but as her gaze drifted to the lover's knot, she froze. The tiara, with its dangling pearls like frozen tears, seemed to stare back. A chill ran down her spine. She said nothing, turning away to examine other pieces. But a silent question lingered. Could I wear it? Should I? Meanwhile, at Kensington Palace, Catherine received a handwritten letter. The thick envelope, sealed with red wax bearing the royal crest, came directly from Queen Elizabeth's office before her passing. Inside was a single sheet penned in the late Queen's elegant yet forceful script. The note was brief, but each word carried the weight of a testament. "Dear Catherine, the lover's knot is more than jewelry. It is a responsibility. I trust you will wear it with the courage and grace it demands. Keep it and keep the heart of the kingdom. Elizabeth R." Catherine read the letter repeatedly, her hands trembling slightly. She sank into an armchair in the sitting room, sunlight streaming across her face, revealing a rare flicker of emotion. William, entering the room, noticed the change. "Kate, are you all right?" he asked, his voice warm but concerned. She looked up, offering a faint smile. "It's from the Queen," she said, handing him the letter. William read it quickly, then fell silent. He placed a hand on her shoulder, saying nothing, his eyes filled with emotion. "My mother?" he began, but stopped, unable to find the right words. Catherine took his hand, squeezing gently. "I'll wear it, William. Not for me, but for her. And for you." Queen Elizabeth's decision wasn't publicized, but in royal circles, no secret stayed hidden. Rumors spread like wildfire. The lover's knot had been given to Catherine, not Camilla. Some said it was the Queen's final wish, a way to protect Diana's legacy. Others whispered it was a subtle reminder to Camilla that though she was queen in name, the public's heart belonged elsewhere. At Clarence's house, Camilla learned of it on a dreary afternoon. She sat at her vanity, the light from a small chandelier highlighting the lines etched by time and pressure. Her trusted aide Margaret entered hesitantly. "Your Majesty, there's news about the lover's knot." Camilla didn't turn, but her eyes in the mirror grew sharp. "Speak," she commanded, her voice calm but laced with tension. Margaret took a deep breath. "It's been given to Princess Catherine by Queen Elizabeth's wish." Silence. A heavy silence, as if the air had thickened. Camilla opened a drawer, revealing a small box of royal pins and brooches, jewelry she'd collected over years. She ran her fingers over them, then closed the drawer with a sharp click. "I see," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. Margaret bowed and left without another word. But as the door closed, Camilla looked in the mirror, and for a rare moment, a flicker of pain crossed her face. Not for the tiara, she'd never truly wanted it, but for what it meant, a declaration that in Queen Elizabeth's eyes she wasn't chosen to carry the future. That night, Catherine lay awake staring at the ceiling. William slept beside her, but sleep eluded her. The lover's knot and Elizabeth's letter filled her thoughts. She thought of Diana, the pain she endured, and the responsibility now on her shoulders. "I'm not her," Catherine whispered to herself, "but I'll try to be worthy." At Clarence's house, Camilla didn't sleep either. She stood by the window, gazing into the dark garden. In her hand was a pearl brooch Charles had given her years ago, when their love was a secret condemned by the world. She gripped it tightly, its edges digging into her palm. "I won," she thought, but deep down she knew some battles never truly end. Winter 2022 brought a biting chill to London, but the Dorchester Hotel glowed with warmth and splendor. A grand charity event was held to raise funds for children in need, a cause close to the royal family's heart. The hotel's grand ballroom was adorned with white silk drapes and golden roses, the crystal chandeliers casting a radiant glow. Guests from wealthy donors to celebrities mingled in elegant evening wear, their laughter blending with soft classical music. Queen Camilla stood out in a deep green silk gown, its tailored lines accentuating her figure. On her head was the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, an elegant piece with diamond floral patterns cherished by Queen Elizabeth II. This tiara, with its classic beauty and storied history, symbolized continuity and authority. Camilla chose it deliberately, signaling that she carried Elizabeth's spirit, ruling not just by title, but through presence and action. She moved through the crowd with polished confidence, her smile warm, her voice steady, as she spoke to donors about her charitable projects. "We're not just building a future for these children, but a kinder kingdom," she said, earning nods and applause. Reporters in the corner scribbled notes, their eyes fixed on her. But within a quiet emptiness lingered. No matter how hard she tried, the event's glow couldn't fill an invisible void. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was absent from the Dorchester that night. She was in Norfolk attending an educational program for children at a small school. A planned absence, but to the public it became another story. On social media, images from the Buckingham night, Catherine in the lover's knot, were still shared widely. Articles hailed her as an icon of elegance and the royal family's new flame. Some even dubbed her Queen of Hearts 2.0. These comments, though not directly mentioning Camilla, cut like invisible knives, leaving her feeling as though she stood in the shadow of an absent figure. Spring 2023 bathed Kensington Palace's gardens in soft sunlight, scattering golden patches across the gravel paths. Catherine sat on a wooden bench, a book open on her lap, but her gaze was distant. Her children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, played nearby, their laughter echoing brightly. These were rare moments when she felt not like the Princess of Wales, not the bearer of the lover's knot, but simply a mother. Yet even in this peace, Diana's shadow lingered. Catherine couldn't help but think of the woman she'd never met yet, who seemed ever present through stories, photos, and above all, the lover's knot tiara. She'd watched footage of Diana, her way of crouching to speak with children, her eyes full of empathy, yet tinged with indescribable sadness. Catherine recognized something familiar in Diana's gaze, the resolve of a woman carrying a burden larger than herself, yet choosing to move forward with grace and courage. That evening in her study, Catherine skimmed an online article. A photo of Diana in the lover's knot sat beside one of her at Buckingham. The headline read, "Two women, one crown, one legacy." She scanned the piece, then closed the screen. She didn't want comparisons, but she knew they were inevitable. Diana and she, a generation apart, shared a look, sad, resolute, and profound enough to silence a room. She stood walking to the glass cabinet where the lover's knot was kept. Opening it, she gazed at the shimmering piece. "How did she do it?" Catherine whispered, as if asking Diana. "How do you wear it without being consumed?" There was no answer, only the light from the pearls like silent tears recounting a woman's enduring mark. Windsor Castle, with its ancient stone walls and long, red-carpeted corridors, held a quiet majesty in the early morning. Sunlight filtered through stained glass windows, painting the wooden floors with vibrant mosaic-like patterns. Today was a private rehearsal for an upcoming diplomatic event. No reporters, no cameras, just palace staff moving silently in the echo of precise protocol. Catherine entered the Great Hall, first her pale blue silk dress accentuating her graceful figure, her brown hair neatly pinned. No tiara today, but her natural elegance shone through. She bowed her head briefly as if steeling herself for what lay ahead. Her heels clicked evenly on the wood like the rhythm of an unspoken melody. Camilla followed her pace, deliberate and authoritative, her silver gray dress highlighting a sparkling pearl brooch on her chest. No tiara adorned her head, but her queenly aura was undeniable. Her heels joined Catherine's, creating a dual rhythm like two rivers flowing parallel, but never merging. No words were spoken. The space between them felt heavy, laden with things unsaid. They paused at the center of the hall, where a long table was set for the rehearsal. Staff stood on either side, heads bowed, awaiting instructions. But in the brief moment before the ceremony began, Camilla turned to Catherine, her gaze sharp yet not hostile, as if searching for something in the younger woman's eyes. "Sometimes history repeats." Camilla said, her voice low, and measured each word, carefully chosen not to remind, but to reclaim. Her words hung in the air, carrying a deeper meaning, a warning perhaps, or a confession. She looked directly at Catherine, gauging her response. Catherine smiled faintly, her expression gentle but not weak. Her bright, steady eyes met Camilla's. "Or to heal," she replied, her voice soft but firm. like a cool breeze on a stifling summer day. Her words weren't confrontational, but a promise that she wasn't here to compete, but to mend the wounds left by the past. No more was said. Their heels resumed their rhythm as they moved to the table where staff awaited. But in that fleeting moment, a wordless dialogue had unfolded. The lover's knot, though absent, stood between them, a silent mountain dividing generations, yet binding them through shared memories and responsibilities. Camilla, who fought for her place, and Catherine, given her spotlight without a fight, both understood the tiara was more than jewelry. It was a symbol of a legacy, a story, and a kingdom still seeking harmony between past and future. As the rehearsal began, Catherine and Camilla sat across the table, exchanging brief, courteous words about schedules and protocol. But in their eyes lingered the echo of their exchange, a fragile understanding that both bore their own burdens under the light of the same crown. The night at Kensington Palace was still the only sound, the gentle rustle of silk curtains as a cool autumn breeze slipped through. Catherine sat alone in her private room, the silver desk lamp casting light on the lover's knot tiara resting on its red velvet cushion. The diamonds sparkled and the pearls swayed lightly as if whispering an endless story. She'd returned from a long day of public smiles and bows, feeling both drained and fulfilled. She lifted the tiara, holding it in her hands, feeling its weight, not just the diamonds and pearls, but the weight of history, expectations, and a legacy the world watched. Closing her eyes, she took a deep breath and spoke softly as if to someone unseen. "I can't replace her. But if I can make people remember her with kindness, maybe, I've done something." The night breeze stirred the curtains, making the tiara's light flicker like tiny stars in the dark. Catherine placed it back on its cushion, but her eyes remained fixed on it. The lover's knot was no longer just Diana's nor just hers. It had become a shared memory of a kingdom of hearts that loved a princess and of those striving to continue her story. At Clarence's house, Camilla was also awake. She stood by a window gazing into the dark garden, a cold glass of cognac in her hand. On a nearby table lay a folded newspaper, open to a photo of Catherine in the lover's knot. Camilla didn't read it, but her eyes caught the headline, "The True Heir." She gave a faint, bittersweet smile. She knew that though she was queen, though she'd spent a lifetime building her place, the public's heart still turned to Diana, and now to Catherine. She thought of their brief exchange at Windsor, of Catherine's reply, "or to heal." Those words, gentle as they were, had touched something deep within her. Camilla didn't want to admit it, but perhaps Catherine was right. The lover's knot, with all its pain and beauty, wasn't meant to reopen wounds, but to heal, to remind that the royal family, despite its secrets and conflicts, could still inspire hope. Camilla set down her cognac and walked to her vanity. She opened a drawer, retrieving the pearl brooch Charles had given her long ago, when their love was a secret scorned by the world. She gripped it tightly, its edges pressing into her palm. "I don't need her crown," she whispered, her voice steadier than ever. "I have my own story." In two palaces, two women, two destinies faced the lover's knot, a symbol not just of the past, but of what they were striving to build. Catherine, with grace and resolve, wore it to honor Diana and protect William's hope. Camilla, with the resilience of one judged by the world, chose to walk without it, yet carried a story no less meaningful. The night breeze blew on, and the tiara, wherever it was, shone quietly, no longer belonging to one woman, but to a kingdom, to shared memories, and to hearts seeking to heal. Like, share, and subscribe to follow the emotional stories of the British royal family.